Hi everyone, welcome to today's Read Fest. I'm Wen Qi, I'm the managing editor of Our Grandfather's Story.
And I'm Rit Kaur. I am the brand lead at O+ by OGS. So we're here today as part of Read Fest 2021, and the theme for this year is Reboot.
So for us at OGS, we try our best to stay curious and creative as much as possible. And today we'll be sharing more about what we do and answer any questions you may have. So please, comment any questions down below. At OGS, we tell timeless and overlooked stories in Singapore and in the region. Let's watch a trailer to introduce ourselves.
Hello, 变我走。
Our Grandfather's Story, we also have a newish platform called O+ by OGS, where we also explore stories, but through animation and comics. So here's the trailer. Okay, so we're done with the trailers. And since today we're all about stories and finding out what keeps us inspired, let's start with a small story on how OGS got started.
Okay, so I co-founded OGS with 3 other batchmates and friends lah. And I mean, Amrit will know this because Amrit is our first employee. We started it about 4-5 years ago, and then back then it was just a school project, and I think all we wanted to do was get good grades. And then that was right after the whole SG50 thingy lah. So everybody was feeling kind of nostalgic. Plus, there were I guess a lot of stories about our old traits or neighborhood stories and characters, right? That we always felt quite underexplored in Singapore. So we really started from there, just being curious about all these characters we see around us, like aunties and uncles, or just the people we overlook in our daily lives. That was how it started. Then I think after we did 1 or 2 videos for the school project, things picked up. And so we thought why not try turning it into a business? I think that was when we got Amrit in, and then we just started doing things as a 5-man team, 6-man team, then slowly started growing from there. Yeah, but I think I can say this for our whole team. I think all of us have a common interest in telling stories around Singapore, and overlooked stories.
Yeah, I would say it's the things that we pass by every day, or don't spare a thought to think about more. For example, I remember one of the first few videos that OGS did. I think it was still part of your school project, when they were documenting rainbow bread. The kind that the uncle will come under the block, So it's just knowing how that's made and the story behind it. Yeah, I think I would say that's the essence of OGS, really going deeper into the things that we tend to pass by every day, but not really question or think about.
Yeah, and I think over the years, that was 5 years ago, right? 4 or 5 years ago.
4-ish years ago, yeah.
Then over the years, we also started being curious about more and more things, right? So from that place of nostalgia or heritage, we slowly started also being curious about actually what are some overlooked stories in Singapore that deserve, our voice on. Yeah, so we started talking about social issues. We developed, Amrit was one of the key creatives in the development team that came up with the Can Ask Meh series, which is quite viral on YouTube. But basically exploring social issues as well as conversations that our society needs to have but doesn't always talk about.
Yeah. Because going back to this idea of how creativity evolves, so as part of creating content that is specific to micro-documentaries, there are also other stories that can be told in different ways, which is why Can Ask Meh has a different sort of approach when you look at it. It's a sit-down interview with multiple people sharing about their lives. Then after that, there's always this, okay, what's next? I feel that's something that we always think of at Our Grandfather's Story, like what's next? And that's why we came up with, okay, how can we tell stories using animation? Not having talking heads. Talking heads meaning like micro-documentaries, or how can stories be told in comics? So there's this process of learning and trying and failing and reinventing that I feel is also reboot in a way. Yeah.
I think for us, we are quite afraid of staying stagnant, I would say. Or at least for me, quite afraid of being stagnant, I think both creatively and in any parts of our life. So always looking for new ways to tell stories. And I think the other thing we've had to learn is learning new social media. We are very young, but so it should be relatively easy for us to pick up, new skills and stuff, right? But it's still tough, when a new social media platform comes up. For example, recently it's TikTok and stuff. Then we had to kind of nudge each other to go on the platform and start looking at how other people are telling new ways of telling stories. But I think one key thing about us is, and a lot of these social media personalities and stuff, is really always learning and not shunning away from these new tech or new platforms that come up.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of reaction that's involved. For example, just yesterday, YouTube launched. It's testing out Shorts, right, in Singapore. So we had to think about, okay, what kind of content can go on Shorts? How do we draw people there? Because there's always this element of how we need to create stories within a boundary, actually. Yeah, and also, not at the back of your mind, but also realize that this is a business. Yeah. So I think there's a lot of balancing that goes on when it comes to, it's not as simple as just finding a right story. Yeah. There's a lot more that goes into it. How do you distribute the story? How do you get people to watch it? That's also a part of the challenge.
Yeah. Okay, we have our first few questions. So please, type in your questions in the comment section and we will read it out. Okay, so we'll start with DK. Okay, I'll ask you, okay? Yeah. So what are some types of stories you've dreamt of capturing in the future?
In the future?
What do you want to do next?
What do I want to do next? I'm very interested to see how stories can work on TikTok. Yeah. That is a challenge because in TikTok you have content that, is so fast, 15 seconds. So I think that would be a challenge of how can you tell a story on a platform that forces you to trim. Yeah, that's something that I haven't explored yet, but yeah, it would be interesting to work around.
I think for me, one thing I dream about is, I think it's something we also recently discussed in office, is whether we can ever build, that kind of Singapore film culture. Maybe not film as in, the traditional way of thinking about film, but even variety shows or reality show, TV shows. Because if you look at in Asia, you have Korean shows and the whole K-pop scene is wow, something we all aspire to, right? I wonder if the day will ever come where people are pining to learn Singlish. and pining to learn the nuances of like Singaporean culture. And like, because I feel that at the forefront of where we started OGS, it was this pride and joy of like celebrating our culture and what is uniquely us, right?
Yeah.
And then recently we've developed Hidden Hustles, which is a series where I try like some new jobs on YouTube. And we were talking and discussing about language, how we tell stories in Singlish and stuff, whether that is impeding our, what do you call it, like viewership? Yeah, no, like it's like being a barrier against people from other nationalities watching our content, or whether that should be something we're proud of. I mean, at the end of the day, the answer is always a balancing act between, you know, being too local versus being more regional or international. But yeah, the thing I dream of is hopefully one day being able to see that S-pop. No lah, hope.
I mean, if you look at it, our grandfather's story is grammatically incorrect.
Yeah,
right?
it is.
And then I remember there was one comment that we had when we were doing Can Ask Meh. Somebody was like, who is Meh? You know, like, Can Ask Meh, like, who is Meh? But, you know, it's just interesting to see these kind of things and how, you know, Singlish is so natural to us, but obviously not to people who are not familiar with it.
Yeah. Okay, moving on. We have another question. What was the story of the first person you talked about in your school project? First person, I think it's Rainbow Bread. Yeah. So at that time, I think nobody had talked about, or nobody had went to do a documentary about like the rainbow bread. You know, when you buy ice cream from the ice cream uncle, then they will wrap it in this rainbow bread, right?
Yeah.
So nobody was doing, we didn't know basically where it came from. So we went to find the bakeries that produced it and just did a story about that. I think that was the very first documentary we did, which was really just a 1.5 minute thing. Yeah, but it went quite viral on the internet just because nobody had ever talked about it.
I remember reading it on Straits Times.
Really?
Yeah, I think somebody covered it.
Oh, yeah. So, it's really simple, to be honest. Yeah, I think where we started from was never a place of like being very extravagant or anything. Yeah, it was just telling simple stories. Okay, move on. Well, we have a lot of questions. Do you have a secret power to spot fascinating characters? How do you find these folks? What's your secret skill?
I don't think there's a secret skill, but I do believe in... Sorry, that might sound a bit weird, but I believe in vibes. In vibes. So when you first come across a story, or somebody tells you like, hey, there's this man who's like using water spray and creating bunny images on the floor. You're just like, wow, who would think about that? You would want to know what made them want to do it. Yeah, so that is that element of curiosity that is sparked. And that's how actually one of the stories came about. Somebody, I know, she DM'd me and she said, I've been noticing bunnies on the floor. Somebody is like, using water jets to create bunnies. So I was like, okay, cool. I'm going to go down one day and just find this person. And I found this person, and his name is Barom. Yeah, he was spray dusting the floor, and I just asked him, why do you create bunnies? And he's like, I just want people to look down and smile. And something so simple like this can resonate with so many people. Yeah, I think that truly is the essence of the story. It's not just what is being told, but what is being felt. So sometimes you don't have to have gone through that experience, you don't have to have lived that life, but there are certain elements that we can all relate to, and I feel that is what transcends anything else. And that's why I feel people watch what we do, because we try to capture the personality in our videos. As in, at least that's what we aim to do.
Yeah, I agree. On finding stories, I think Nike said it best. You just do it. We just do it, like really no magic behind it. Yeah, it's from everywhere and anywhere. Sometimes I tell people it's a bit like how you fall in love. Sometimes you're matchmade.
Yeah.
Like, people pass you these stories and tell you, hey, this might be a good story. But sometimes it's like online dating. You have to do research and scroll online, then you find the profiles. Sometimes it's like you meet them on the streets. And sometimes those are the best types because it's like, it really feels a bit magical and like
it's meant to be.
It's meant to be, yeah. So it's really like falling in love. You just think of the many ways you can fall in love and use that as an analogy.
Yeah, but just like falling in love, not everything works out.
Exactly.
So, so there are some stories that you think are headed in like a good direction, but when you actually go down and maybe speak to someone and you realize that maybe not, it was better in your head than it was in reality.
Yeah, that's so true.
And some people don't want to talk to you, and that's fine. Yeah. So you must know when and how much and how long to push.
Yeah, sometimes it's just not your time to tell the story. Then you just have to learn to let it go.
Yeah.
Okay, we have another question. Okay, so YH asked, what's the hardest story you've told so far?
Hardest story emotionally, maybe?
Yeah, there's a related question. I try to combine these two.
Yeah.
And what's a life-changing story for you personally? OGS story. It's kind of related.
I don't know if it is life-changing, but it definitely had an impact on me. It was one of the first few Can Ask Me videos featuring parents who have lost their child. So just being in that space and having these parents share such personal and deep, intimate moments in their life blew me away, number one, because it takes a lot of courage to do that. Yeah, to do that in front of a camera. And it's just kind of crazy that, just a few feet away, somebody has gone through such a big loss in their life. And I think that really shook me. So at the end of the interview, usually we are the ones who ask the profiles, like, how do you feel about the interview? And this time one of the parents asked us. And I think it kind of just forced me to think about it, like what it had an impact on me. And I think at that point of time, I just broke down. I couldn't put into words, actually. Then I was like, please ask somebody else first. Let me try to collect myself. But you don't realize things, maybe because I was like work mode. When you bring yourself out of it and then you let it sink in, it moves you. Yeah, it makes you think about your parents. Yeah, at least that's what it did for me.
For me, my answer has stayed the same for a while already. So it's this documentary I did on a crab hunter in Pulau Ubin. I think why it was life-changing, actually it wasn't the hardest. Oh, it was physically the toughest. Yeah, so basically it was a one-man shoot, and then I just went down to Pulau Ubin to interview him, plus I went crab hunting with him in the mangrove. So the mangrove water came up to this high at one point, and I was just carrying my bag and my camera on top of my head.
Yeah, I remember
I was thinking, if I drop this, my whole crew is going to kill me, and I need to pay like $1,000 for this. I was like,
3,000.
please, don't drop. Then the uncle was like, I help you take. That's the uncle, please don't drop. Yeah, then we had to cross all these like mangroves. It's really like OBS and it's a challenge, but it was so fun. Like, cause I enjoy the outdoors, so it was so fun but challenging at the same time. And we were just wading through the mangrove waters, and the uncle was leading me, and then he would, poke his stick into the crab holes and hear whether got sound or not. So to me, when I went into the story, I thought it was going to be a story about a craftsman. Right, like someone who has been dedicating his life to like doing this craft, and yeah, it's just these characters that we don't even know have such skills. He's so talented. But like midway through our walk in the mangroves, I asked him. I found out that he actually moved to Pulau Ubin in his 40s, I think. So I asked him why, because I thought everybody there was native to the island, like they were born there, but he moved there. So he told me he had like a anxiety disorder that was diagnosed when he was about 40, and he was just very stressed out. So he just decided that one day, whatever lah, I'm just gonna move to an island and lead my island life and make like my daily living by selling crabs.
Yeah.
And running and driving taxi lah. So I just thought that this man is so inspiring because at his age, right, he's now 50, in his 50s or 60s. At their age, right, men in that generation, they don't think, or even women of that generation, is not so popular or they don't reflect so much about their mental health, right? I thought it was really brave of him to just drop everything and move to an island, and especially at the time that he did it, and to give up whatever he had to give up on the mainland. Yeah, so he really inspired me and he really taught me a lesson to care for yourself and not care too much about what other people might think about your decision, or be brave when it comes to pursuing your own mental health. Yeah, and he was really someone who impacted me in many, many ways, and the shoot was also because it was very fun. Then after that, I came back to the office. They all know because
a lot of sandfly bites.
I was covered in 300 over sandfly bites. It was crazy. Yeah, but I still keep in touch with the uncle because, I think in the same way that he left an impact on me, I think I would like to believe I also did because he also felt that it was a friendship beyond the video. Yeah, so that was really, really nice.
Yeah, it's a very cute friendship.
Yeah. Okay. Next.
Okay.
Shall we move on? Okay. There's a voting system. Let me find the most voted.
Okay.
Okay.
Actually, on that note about, mental health and whatever, related to that is I think sometimes we experience fatigue in content production. How do you navigate through that?
I think it helps to just stop working for a while.
It does though.
Really, I think over the past 4-5 years probably have tried a lot of solutions because fatigue and burnout is something that I don't think we did, I definitely did experience over the years. Sometimes the burnout is not as bad as 1 week thing or 1 month thing, right? It's not so extreme. Sometimes it's just a day.
Yeah.
You just feel very, very tired on that day, restless, don't want to work. Sometimes it lasts a bit longer than that. So I find it helpful to tell myself that just be patient and give it time to let the feeling pass. See whether different things help. Does working more help? Sometimes actually diving into more work
Just
helps.
doing it, right?
Yeah, getting the work out of the way helps. Because sometimes it's about the task. It was too difficult and put me out of my comfort zone.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's not. It's I'm doing too much and I need a break. And I come to realize that for me at least, going outdoors and taking a consistent break so every weekend, really just not touching work for at least a day in the week.
Yeah.
It helps me to just zone out and create more space in my life. Yeah. What about for you?
Similar to you, I just removed myself from work for a while. I also read the Keep Going book, right? And they share some pretty helpful tips. So one of them is going airplane mode. Sometimes you just need to disconnect and do something else. And also, I think one thing that I took out from their book is how creativity is a process. You know how we sometimes call ourselves creatives, right? But to be fair, anyone can be a creative, right? Creativity is everywhere. You can find inspiration in the mundane, the magic in the mundane. So it's reminding myself that, sometimes work is work, and I don't have to be so hard up on myself if things don't work out. That's something that I'm still trying to learn. But it's always a good reminder to realize that creativity is not just micro-documentaries or comics or animation. Creativity can be anything. If something inspires you, you just want to paint something. It doesn't matter if it's ugly or not. At least you're doing something. There's a channel for that. And that's what I try to do. I like to try new things. I don't need to be great at it, but it's just having that experience of, okay, I've tried something, I've experienced something.
On that note, do you have any hobbies?
Wow. I don't have, okay, the thing is, I cannot stick to one thing. That's my problem. Hobbies, I right now, honestly, no. No. Right now, I have to admit I'm kind of sucked into work. So when I'm done with work, I just want to sit down and watch like MasterChef or Great British Bake Off or whatever, something that doesn't remind me of work. Yeah, I think it's also because at least for me, I'm working from home sometimes. It's a bit like difficult for me to...
Yeah, get off work lah.
Yeah, but it's something that I'm working on. I mean, it's one thing to just like remove yourself from the computer, but I feel like with our kind of work that you're still just constantly thinking, Sometimes when I have an idea, I'll just take out my notes from my phone and put it in, and if I don't put it in, I cannot sleep, that kind of thing. So it's not very healthy also, but
yeah,
something we're working on.
Yeah, I find that like taking consistent breaks also help. Like not waiting for like chionging 2-3 weeks to wait for that one big break. I find that taking consistent breaks in the week helps like manage that lah. So maybe it'll help you too. Okay, shall we move on?
Yeah, just one more thing though.
Okay.
Keep going. They say that you should take long walks. And I've recently loved taking long walks in the rain. I know it sounds kind of weird.
You're so
but it's
romantic.
not like pouring rain, but like drizzling kind.
But still
then
very
I listen to
romantic. Alone?
Yeah. It's me time. You need to find me time.
Listen to what? Sad music or
No, like it's just music that I feel like
suits the mood.
Yeah.
Okay, Ken. Next up, the one with 3 votes. And also our social media person always says we receive this question on all our social media platforms. Does OGS accept interns throughout the year?
Yes, we do. We do accept interns throughout the year. You can be an intern at the micro-documentary site, or you can be an intern at the animation site or the podcast site, yeah.
Yeah. To find out more, DM us on Instagram. It's too leceh to give you too much details now. Yeah, but just DM us, reach out lah. I think there's always a link we can send
There's a
you.
website that we have, so you can send in your resume and stuff.
Okay, next. Was there a time you considered telling certain stories but decided against it because it was too sensitive a topic? Have you ever self-censored lah? Is it? Because it was too sensitive. Too sensitive.
What do you mean by too sensitive?
Actually, I don't think too sensitive.
Yeah.
We never shy away from it being too sensitive because for us, we always feel like there's a way to go around it. Like because we are telling stories, we just need to find people who are willing to share that story and share it as candidly as possible and as authentically as possible. I think those are the things we look out for. To answer your question, we don't shy away because it's too sensitive, but sometimes we don't tell it because it's not the right time or we didn't find the right person to tell the story.
Yeah, or sometimes it's even the perspective that we want to share. If this perspective has been shared before, then what value are we bringing to this story? So if we don't find like we are adding something more to it, or then we won't do it because we don't want to add to the noise. Yeah. We want to cut through it.
Yeah. Okay, next. What do you need to start something like OGS in terms of resources? And could you also share a little bit about the business model? First part is, what do you need to start something like OGS? What do you need? You need a camera, you need microphone, and you need yourself to conduct the interview, or maybe an editing software. But beyond that, that's about it lah. To start, honestly, is like Nike said, you just do it. Really, really, I cannot emphasize. There's no magic. There really isn't magic. You just have to do it. Yeah, but what would help is having friends lah. I think for us, we were very, very, very lucky to, or for me at least, I know lah, for us. I think right from the start, there were already 4 of us. Very, very soon after, there were 5 of us. We were never doing it, maybe you were. I was going to say we were never doing it all by ourselves. Do you ever feel? But
one point of time, yeah.
But I honestly feel like we were lucky in that way that we had each other to count on and like kind of at least talk to. I mean, also Yeah, honestly, that was
Yeah.
it. Like, we just had each other, and then of course, the lucky thing for us is also we started as students, for the four of us, the co-founders. So it's not like we were very pressed for, like, right at the start we had to make money. Like, right at the beginning, it was okay for us not to draw a salary because we were still studying. So I think some advice is it's always good to start. Honestly, when you're studying, it's a very, very good time to try out these things. Because the opportunity cost is so low. Yeah, so those are some advice. But if not, if you're already working, then just do it. If you want to not be so stressed, then do it on the side. Yeah.
Yeah. I think we were also lucky that we had people who believed in our idea and invested in OGS when it was really a skeleton team. I wouldn't say starting is challenging because everything is new to you. You are just figuring things out. What I would say is challenging is to keep going. Yeah. And it's true.
Link back to the book.
I mean, unintentionally, yeah, but that really is the challenge. You know, you need to, you cannot look at yourself as just OGS, you know. You need to look at yourself as OGS amongst other brands. How do you stay relevant? How do you engage? Yeah, so I think storytelling is just one aspect of this business. If you're looking at it that way, there's a lot more to that.
Business model wise, quite straightforward. I mean, at least for now, the business model is sponsored content. So we have similar business model to what you see overseas with BuzzFeed or like the local ones like Mothership or SGAG and stuff like that. Yeah. So we do sponsored content to get ourselves paid, which means some of our content are basically paid by our clients to make those stories. Yeah, that's our business model. Okay, shall we next? Okay, Timothy has asked, what's the qualifications required to work in OGS?
I think we'll keep this brief.
5 votes You're so curious. Let's not talk about paper qualifications because we don't really, honestly, paper qualifications is not the first thing we look at. We look at portfolio. To be very, very honest, I think a good portfolio with relevant works is what is important. I want to keep this broader than OGS because maybe your dream is not just like OGS, right? Your dream is to work at a content house, a publication. I believe I say this for them as well, that like having strong, relevant work in your portfolio that shows your passion, shows your interest, and shows that you are motivated to do things at your own time or to learn about these things while you're studying.
Yeah.
That goes a long way because for us, that's how we can tell who you are, right? Like when we see your work, as in with creative work, when you see a video, you're not just seeing a video, you're also seeing the personality who made this or like the kind of effort, the editing style, the directing style. Yeah, so it tells us a lot about your style of working as well.
Someone who enjoys collaborating and working with other people, bouncing ideas. Yeah, I think that's what we value a lot at OGS and O+ and SP.
Yeah. Because our whole company is relatively young now, so we really like people who are willing to bounce ideas with us and like collaborate. Okay. Oh, okay, next. This one also a lot of votes. Personally, being in the creative industry, it is difficult to stay financially stable producing videos. How does OGS do it? How has the how has the pandemic kind of shook us in terms of finances? So I think when you think of OGS, we are not just like a freelance, like we're not an individual, we are an organization, right? We have different teams and stuff like that. So I think how have we done it is too technical. I cannot explain that to you, but I would say the pandemic has shook every business, and I think for us as well, definitely has shaken things up, both like behind the scenes and also in terms of like finances. Some months are better than other months and things like that. But you just have to ride the wave. Yeah, sorry, I realized this question too technical.
Yeah, I think there's a part of it that comes with the whole creative process. You need to find new ways of telling stories. So like how we started out with micro documentaries, Then you have another format, which is a Can Ask Me kind of format. Then you have other formats like comics. So you always have to find ways to tell stories in different formats. Yeah, that's basically it lah. Yeah, and now that we are doing something completely out of our comfort zones, maybe a bit. It's called hosted series.
Yeah, we are starting, correct. We are starting more hosted stuff to kind of expand the ways to tell stories.
Yeah, and it's still like really trial and error because you don't know what will hit or what will miss lah with your audience. So that's scary, especially when you're in front of the camera. But
so I hosted Hidden Hustles, which is on YouTube, already out, and Amrit is going to host a series that is coming out this Thursday. So stay tuned for that. And
again, going back to just trying new things.
Okay, we have a fun question. Have some apics chased you away when you tried to shoot them?
They're not very rude about it. They'll just show you that they are not interested. They'll be like, no, it's okay, thank you, it's okay, no need. I've never faced anyone who's like, who chased me before.
The bulls. I cannot recall but I remember definitely being rejected.
Yeah, for sure.
I think being rejected is a very normal part of the job. You just learn to deal with it. So don't be too afraid of rejections, whether it is by like your boss or your supervisors or by the people you approach. Yeah, being rejected is very, very common. Yeah, just like I think we mentioned earlier, sometimes it doesn't work out and you just learn to let go because it's not your time to tell the story. Yeah.
Oh yeah, the person just doesn't want to.
Okay. The pandemic has forced a lot of us to adapt and reinvent ourselves with new jobs. Who is the most creative person you've met through your videos?
Who's the most creative person
you've met through?
Like a profile that we met?
Yeah.
Ooh.
Or any recent ones more related to the pandemic? Because they had to reinvent themselves.
I think one interesting thing I noticed from the pandemic, people started doing a lot of side projects. You noticed the period?
Yes.
Like you have new
side hustles.
like I'm trying these new things. And some of them have come up with really nice initiatives, like the lady who had a library outside her house. Two things, right, is to prevent people from throwing books away, and others is to just encourage people to read books in a socially distanced place. Yeah, but it's this kind of things that you pick up.
I don't think this is part of the reinventing, but one of the most creative person I've ever met. Don't know if you remember, there was this GrabFood delivery rider. He's really cute. He's so cute.
Was it the airplane one? Yeah.
So he records. I mean, he also went viral on the internet but we did a short doc about him. He went viral because he would record airplane messages whenever he delivers food. So when he's going to collect your food, he will record a "ladies and gentlemen." Then and got background music on. So
so much effort.
Yeah, he's so creative. Yeah. He's so creative. I was like, really don't let the job or the occupation kind of define your limits, right? Like he was a key example of just doing what he wanted.
Yeah, just being so fun about it. Like, who would ever think, sending a message could be like
so he reinvented the job even before there was a need to pandemic and all, right? Like he just wanted to provide the best customer service he could. And he's such a sweet person. He bought us brown sugar for fun. Like at the start of the interview, he told us, "Here, I have a present for you." He gave us a packet of brown sugar.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he said just to make your life sweet. So cute, right?
Stealing it though.
It's just very random, but it's so adorable. Yeah, he's so creative.
Yeah, but I think it's interesting to notice how his creativity sort of touched you in a way. Like, that you still remember this guy who did this. Yeah, I think that's the amazing part of this one.
Yeah. Okay, next. Do you actually pay the people who agree to your interviews, or are they just genuinely happy to share? Part 2, have you gotten an interviewee who was not thankful or appreciative of the content created?
I think for the second part, if they are not thankful, I think they are nice enough not to tell us. I don't know, because I've not come across anyone who... Have you?
I think we faced, like, after putting out the content, where they would reach out and ask us certain things. Off the top of my head, I can't remember any, but I feel like we've had those kinds of interaction before. Or maybe not from them, but from the viewers.
Yes.
Yeah, because I mean, there's a comment section where anyone can comment anything, what? Yeah, so either like, you know, viewers commenting, saying that, just giving critique about the video, or like reaching out to us to critique it. I think for me personally, I don't feel much about it. Yeah, because I believe that by putting it on social media, you're opening it to everybody to give their views about it lah. So as long as people are being polite and, you know, nice about it or not, like, then just don't read those that are very, very rude and unkind. But the ones that have a legit critique to it, sometimes we just reply and answer. Sometimes it's a misunderstanding, or they just thought that we were giving a message that we didn't want to. Like, for example, the children's beauty pageant. So we did a documentary about a children's beauty pageant, and there were people who were commenting about how, like, it's unethical to make the children go for these beauty pageants. But I think our director also kind of replied in the comments to engage the viewers, to tell them that actually these kids are willing participants. Of course, if they are unwilling, it would be unethical lah. But we wanted to shine light on the fact that there are, like, these kids who are genuinely interested, and, like, we shouldn't kind of discriminate them or shun them in any way lah. Yeah.
There was a part 1 to
the part
question.
1 is... wait.
About remuneration and stuff.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Okay, the part 1 was whether we pay our profiles, or are they genuinely interested to share?
Yes, actually the profiles are genuinely interested to share, but if, you know, it requires them to travel to certain places or come to our office, then we do offer like a sum that covers their transport and things like that.
This is a fun one. When you get bored, where do you go to in Singapore to get that spark back for inspiration?
You start first?
I have a few top spots. But if I tell you later, that whole place is very crowded. No lah. So near my house, there's a Lower Pierce Reservoir.
I love that place.
It's so nice. Go at sunset, guys. The sun sets over the reservoir, so it's like, what a beauty. Yeah. And then the other place I recently started going is, because I recently got into stand-up paddling. So I went to the Sembawang Mangroves and like paddled to Pulau Ubin and back. Yeah, I think just being out in nature really helps me to unwind, and it actually really helps to bring in new ideas. I find myself a bit more refreshed and energized when I come back.
Yeah, true. I'm the same. I like to go explore. So I have a bicycle and I'll just cycle on the park connector, see where I end up. Yeah, and just sit down. And I enjoy being close to nature. Yeah, Lower Pierce is a great place. Yeah.
I remember you were there too.
A couple of times.
Okay. Is there a book or movie that inspires you all the time? Wow, all the time.
All the time.
I have leh.
You do?
I have leh. But it's I recommended you to read it before. 7 Habits.
Yeah.
She can share her thoughts, but for me, 7 Habits of a highly effective people. Yeah. Anyway, yeah. It's like almost like a textbook on how to live your life. It's a bit hard to read and get through because a bit technical, but wow, that blew my mind. This book really changed and shifted my perspective, and it changed the way that I communicated with people or viewed myself and viewed others. And I think before reading this book, sometimes I would get into conflicts and arguments, debates, where I felt very strongly about what I wanted or what I believed in, but someone else didn't feel the same way, and I would always get into conflicts. But after I read this book, I really felt like, actually, everybody comes in with their own perspective. How can I insist that my perspective is better than yours, or convince you to change your perspective completely, right? So that book taught me about how to kind of negotiate, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, just read it. It's great.
I haven't read it though. I haven't read it yet. I mean, there are a couple of books that I wouldn't say I have any one book that has changed me greatly, but there are a couple of books like The Subtle Art of Not Giving a beep, and then they also have When Breath Becomes Air. I like to listen. I like to hear stories or read stories from people whose lives I don't live lah, and learn from their experiences. Yeah, I think that's what I enjoy doing most. So semi-autobiographical kind of stuff. Yeah.
There's another book I think is great. It's called Grit by Angela Duckworth.
Great.
Grit, Grit. Yeah, it's a book that kind of talks about how to build grittiness in a person lah. And I read it because you know how they always say a book finds you where you are at.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Anyway, like when I read this book, I was like, wow. It's like falling in love with a book. Yeah, because it was at a stage of my life where I was like very stagnating or getting bored or like just finding it hard to get through the day to day. Then this book really made me feel and reflect about like grittiness lah, which is something I feel like is really important because you can't just ride through the highs. You also need to stick it out through the lows. And like, yeah, this book covered a bit about that and how to build grittiness. It was also about parenting lah, like for parents, how to build grittiness in your kid. But as a young adult reading it, like it just taught me about how to develop grit in my day-to-day. Yeah, you can try reading. Okay. A bit related, but I just checked. Is there any other books you recommend reading? Highly recommend reading.
Highly recommend. I'm currently reading This Is Going to Hurt by Adam Kay. It's about like a junior doctor and his diaries. He eventually does not become a doctor. He's like a comedian, but it's very refreshing to see how people struggle. Everyone struggles, so yeah, it's just finding how you deal with it. Yeah, but he does it in a very humorous way, which I enjoy. It's quite light reading. Yeah.
There's a Kepo question.
Yeah.
Does working in the creative industry affect your love life? Hee hee.
I mean, does working anywhere affect your work? No.
Not specifically creative industry,
Oh,
right?
I think as if you don't factor in time for doing other things in life, then those parts will suffer. I don't know how to.
Yeah, I don't think specifically being in the creative... Okay, both of us are dating people who are outside the industry. But I don't think specifically being in the creative industry makes much of a difference. Yeah. If anything, I think it has been more interesting because I bring back new stories all the time and like interesting stories about people I meet and stuff.
Yeah. It's more like sharing about work. Today, blah blah blah. Like met this person today. Yeah.
Okay, end of this Kepo question. Next, okay. How do you conceptualize a story? Do you just wake up one day and decide on getting a cockroach hunter in Vietnam?
Oh, no. I mean, if it was as easy as that, I'll be working while sleeping, can be paid while sleeping.
Yeah, we dream of stories.
No, like what Wen-Si mentioned just now, it's like you have different ways of finding stories. Sometimes it comes to you, sometimes you look for it because you've always wondered about something. So the cockroach one, I'm not sure how they came about though.
Oh, the cockroach one, we worked with a partner in Vietnam lah. So technically, we cannot claim credit for that idea because that was a story pitched to us. Yeah, but how we conceptualize the story, I think we always start off with what we want to tell about the story. Like what's the message we want to bring across lah. And then from there, with the available resources, we decide what's the best format or what's the best way.
I think there's a process also. So as a video journalist, you first need to be convinced about your own story, and then you have to pitch to Wen-Si, and then she has to work through it and see whether there's an angle to it that is different from what's out there.
What about O+?
O+, right now with the comics, we are trying new things, like data stuff. So the team is pretty small, and it's more of like just figuring stuff out right now.
How do you all conceptualize things like Sincerely Singles, you know?
Sincerely Singles was an idea from one of our colleagues, I think. Yeah. I think they already had something to do with love and, you know, a weird character exploring love. So we kind of just developed on that. And then trying out data stuff is something we want to do. So for O+, right now we have short stories that we're trying out, you know, like less than 1 minute. Those are based off moments in life that most people can relate to. Yeah. Also freaky stories. So it's just like trying. And sometimes it's also just trying to see what sticks. Yeah.
A related question is, where do you see, I guess, O+, and where do you see OGS heading to in the future?
You want to start first?
Where do I see OGS heading to? I think OGS's mission stays the same lah. Like, and I truly believe in it, because I mean I was one of the person who came up with it. But basically, we just want to entertain and educate the people, and leave an impact on people lah through the content that we tell. So where I see OGS headed is in any way possible making this dream come true lor. So continuing to educate and entertain and impact people, but through any like mediums, any platform. So it could be in a TikTok, it could be host-driven, it could be like documentaries, it could be longer form documentaries, or talk shows, interviews, even, you know, interviews on the street, you know, vox pops. But whatever the format, always staying true to our mission to like impact others lah, and for good lah.
Yeah. I mean, goes to, I mean, O+ is under OGS, so the values and the way we look at things is the same. But O+, I see as more of something that can be a bit more on a collective side of thing, you know? So you have, besides just doing comics animation, we can branch out to doing like merchandise, like murals, or, you know, working with museums to come up with collaterals and things like that. Yeah.
Okay, I think we have time for one last question. Time has flew by. So, okay, for this last one, let's go with, what's one philosophy you'd share to get us to stay curious and creative?
One philosophy, okay, I'm not like some great learned person, but what helps me is let yourself let go. You need to know when there is a point where you just have to like, okay, this didn't work, move on. And don't be so hard up about it, because not everything is within your control. So that's one thing that I feel you can adapt for everything in life. Specifically to work, it's like, it's very scary when you're trying new things, because it's like letting your baby go out and then it's at the mercy of likes and shares and engagement and whatever else, numbers. Yeah, sometimes it gets kind of, you need to reshift your gears and think about your purpose of the purpose of your career, and not peg it to like numbers and metrics. Yeah, so I think when you realize that things are not working, just let it go and be okay with that. I mean, I'm still learning lah. Easier said than done, right? But that's something that helps me.
I think for me, it's about very zen, but finding a balance. You know, like finding that balance between being patient with yourself and with the stories you're telling, and also like just putting, like what she said, putting your work out there, and like not pursuing, you know how what they say, done is better than perfect. Right? Like just putting your work out there and letting people watch it. Because as a creative, I think sometimes we're a bit of a perfectionist. And being a creative, you are always very vulnerable. Yeah, you are very vulnerable because the work is a part of you. It's a very, very big part of you. So I think sometimes it's very hard to like just put your work out there lah. You'll get very nervous, very scared. But sometimes it's just pushing yourself to like, come on, you can do this, and then let it go. But also like on the other side, like balancing that with being patient and telling yourself that, okay, it's okay to slow down, it's okay to hold on to this and feel that it's not ready to go out yet, and it's okay to like take your time to learn from this process. So I find it very, very important to achieve that balance. I think that is where you will find peace with your life and also be able to be happy lah, because you're not always constantly pursuing one or the other.
Yeah.
It's striving to maintain a balance between the two.
Yeah, and as cliche as it sounds, right, it's really very nice to read comments that are like, positive comments. So it's the small things that keep us going, because in a way, these are markers for us to continue doing what we're doing, or we know that we're on the right track. I mean, that's not to say that negative comments do not push us on the right track, but the validation helps. So I guess sometimes we have to be kind on social media also.
That's true.
Yeah. Or we can learn to be kind.
Okay, with that, I think we can start to wrap up today's session. Yeah.
I mean, we hope that you've gained some insight on the creative process behind our work. And if you want to check out our content, we are everywhere. You can find us on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. Now we're on TikTok as well. So that goes for OGS, Our Grandfather's Story, O+, and something private.
And also, if you are interested to know more about behind the scenes or more about us, you can follow us on our Instagram accounts as well. I'm Chia Wen-Ti on IG, and she's Legrit.
That is Legrit, though there's nothing much on there yet. I'll be posting some stuff soon.
Thanks so much for attending. We'll see you guys soon.
Thank you.